Okay. So one of the things you had mentioned is self-esteem comes from knowing you are more than your body. So in this world of duality of fear compared to love, it's believing that there is a love greater than us, whether that's a guardian angel, whether that is knowing that there's something bigger than just our own selfish ways. What are your thoughts about that world of duality that we get brought into, tested almost, to know that?
Yes, absolutely. I guess we're here. I mean, I had a near-death experience, a big one. And I met my guru, my teacher, Yogananda. And I described that experience in my book. And so I had this experience beyond the veil. I had this experience of what unconditional love is, what that feels like, that bliss from being in that love that at the same time feels more real than anything else I've ever experienced. That's the reality, is this extreme bliss. That's knowing myself as bliss. And the incredible love, the indescribable love, really, that I felt in that moment. So why we come here? Well, obviously to learn, and that's all I've learned, is to love better. My journey, I feel, has taught me that, to love more, to love even those people who do so much harm to children, kill children, rape children. I feel like my experience has helped me to really deeply understand them, more than they understand themselves. And that's why I have compassion for them too, because I wouldn't want to live with not knowing myself, being banned from myself. Even though they're trying to make my life hard sometimes, it's okay. It's a game. It's okay. You know, I have protection. I feel protected. I mean, I don't want to be blind in that, but I do feel very protected by the light, and I don't wish harm for anyone. So, but obviously that doesn't mean that people don't have to be held accountable. We don't want this to continue. We can't let these people continue in their insanity. For their own sake, they need to be held accountable too. For their own soul's sake, they need to be held accountable. But it seems that we're here to learn that, all the things that the world offers, that all the desires that we have, that we believe are going to bring us that ultimate bliss, that happiness, it's not going to happen here ever. The only thing that brings complete happiness, complete bliss, is God Himself. And then God, that's where we have to, that's where we're going. All of us eventually.
Yes. One of the things and I just want to circle back to power for a moment, and thank you for sharing what you've shared. So in terms of power, you went from a place of once being afraid of it because of what you saw to now claiming your personal agency. So what changed for you?
Yes, I was very afraid of my own power because of not only what I had seen in the network and how those powerful people use their power, but also what I do. Because children in this network are, all of them, by the way, compromised, in that even at very young ages, children are made to commit harm for many reasons. But one, of course, is to always make sure that the silence will be safeguarded. The silence, the secret of this network will be safeguarded, but also to groom them to become part of the network. And so having been made to do these things, you're being frustrated. When you're being abused, you're being extremely frustrated, and you're being made to feel powerless. And that there's a lot of anger that is built up from that. And the anger, again, is this original survival reaction. It's just a pure survivalist, the anger that kills the opponent so that you're free of it. And that gets channeled very expertly, by the way, in order to give someone as a victim in the network one channel to release all of that burden that you've been carrying from all the abuse that you've suffered. And that's to do harm. And you're forced into it. So it's extremely scary. It was extremely scary. And that was really the moment that I described 10 years ago of my healing. Because so I was made to take lives. And the way that was done was that there was definitely no way that I couldn't do it, because it would be worse for the victim. So I was the better, let's say, executioner. And I feel it's important to speak about that, because it is such a basic element of this group, of this very large network of Satanists that are in most small towns and in every government all over the Western world, in all the high institutions, that this committing the harm, when you kill another human being, you don't want to really live. You don't want to feel, you don't want to live. You don't feel really that you deserve to live if you have had to take the life of someone else. It's very painful. It's very traumatizing. You can't bring that person back. And to heal from that trauma was the hardest. And that was what came to me 10 years ago, where I finally had all the puzzle pieces, and I finally fully realized that I never had wanted that to happen, that not an ounce of me wanted this. And it's the same as with sexual abuse. Your body is going into freeze state, and then when your blood flows more slowly and all the hormones that are released, you may experience pleasure. As a child, you could never say, I didn't want this. As a child, you automatically will say, well, I felt that, so I must have liked it, so I must have wanted it. There's no way you can separate that as a child.
And I just might interrupt you for a second, and they say sometimes evil is confusing.
Oh, exactly. Evil is very confusing. And this too, when you're being made to commit harm, it's a channel. So it's like suddenly, and I write about this in my book, I write my own experience down in my book in great detail, that when you're made to do that, the release that you feel is also real. It's like getting high. And you feel free in that instant, strangely. That is, of course, the addiction of a lot of those people. A lot of those psychopaths, they're addicted to that sense of freedom that they get from constantly trying to be on top, power over, that goes to killing as well. Higher power that you feel is real. So when you feel that, as a child especially, there's no way that you can say, well, I didn't want to do that. You just feel so guilty. A lot of those people, they've lost their conscience along the way altogether. And again, that means there's no access to themselves as souls anymore, their light. But if you do have a conscience, which most of us do, most of the victims do have a conscience, then you're just stuck with such guilt that you'll never be able to function properly. And that's what changed in that moment 10 years ago.
Because you were more than that decision.
Because I realized I realized that I never wanted it. I realized that it had nothing to do with me. I did it. I even had an experience But as a 50-year-old, 49-year-old, I was able to say, I didn't want it. I know why I had to choose to do it, because it would have been worse for the victim. I knew I had to do it. And then what I experienced when I did it, I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for that. I didn't want it. I didn't want to kill. That was the last thing I wanted to do.
You were put in a compromising position.
Completely.
Yeah.
I was forced to make a choice. That is to say, either you do it and she's going to die, or you don't do it and she's going to die worse. That was the choice. And that wasn't told me with words then. That was made clear right from the beginning.
It's a lot to put on someone, especially a child, because then later you have to, like you talked about the puzzle pieces, you have to figure out how to put them back together again and what's true. Not like the pieces like awkward and, you know, you really have to find your way forward. But again, this is a lot to put on someone at any age, but particularly a child when their brain is just developing and there's that pureness and that innocence that they just want to give love to this world. So just congratulations to you for being able to take a step back. You know, somebody might call it that 5,000-foot eagle's view to say, you know, those were the circumstances then, but if I can just reframe it and see it from another set of eyes, then the role that I played, you know, maybe I didn't give my consent. I mean, there's a lot of deceit that can happen. And, you know, unless we walk in the footsteps of somebody, we don't know why they choose the things that they choose. You know, there's that joke, and I know you don't watch movies, but there was this movie called The Godfather, and they talked about, you know, the offer you can't refuse. Oh, did you see The Godfather? Oh, okay. Yeah. So this idea of, you know, if somebody makes an offer, you know, there are times when you can make a counter offer. And then there's times where if you're not in a position of strength, it's like, well, you know, it's very much a spiritual choice. Sometimes I think about the soldiers that thought that they were, let's say, defending their country for justice and patriotism. And all of those things that do exist, but then there's another aspect to war where it's about capital and resources and, you know, the PTSD that they experience afterwards. And again, that mind within that has to come to peace with, you know, do I then step into if I go back to this idea of legacy, do I then step into my personal agency and trust myself? Or do I go back to a projection or a role that someone else put onto me, and then being able to, you know, pull apart those two identities and be at choice?
Exactly. And especially if you're in a war and you're also